Awesome, man. What's the hunting season there?
So our hunting season is it's from November 15th to February 15th.
Mm.
And that's the season for everything. It's all at once, and it's 3 months of just go out there in the mountains and you can hunt everything from birds to deer to bear.
Really? So, and that's dogs and just your standard spot and stock rifle hunters.
Everything. Everything.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
It
it's
does.
quite different, I would say. The system is quite different here from what it is, what I hear it is in the States and things like that, where you've got your rifle season, and then you got your bow season, and then you got your tags and all that. We don't have that kind of a system here.
So, are
It's
there
a very
tags?
different culture.
Is it restricted by tags in
No,
some way? So, when you're out, anything goes.
yes, there are. I guess in the name of management, we do have some. I guess we've got quotas, bag limits on certain types of game,
Hmm.
certain types of. I guess mostly it would be like waterfowl and things like that.
Mm.
And for a while, we did have them on deer as well. But now they've removed that. And it's basically please hunt all you can as far as most four
Really?
legged game goes.
Well, so
Yeah.
there's a absolute abundance of almost all game. Uh,
Yeah. I would say we're a bit of an outlier worldwide in that our wildlife population is booming to numbers that we haven't seen in over a century, back to like the Meiji era.
mhm. And why is that?
Well, I guess there's different theories to it, but mostly we would have to say that there's a decrease in the hunting population here in Japan. We just
Hmm.
don't have the amount of hunters that we used to, and that's mostly due to the aging population here.
Hmm. And so as the demographics shift towards an older population, there's fewer young hunters replacing.
Correct.
Hmm.
That's exactly what we're seeing. I think we're looking at. Okay, well, for instance, here in my city, which is Minami Boso City, we had a population of 45,000 people in 2006.
Hmm.
We're losing about 50 some people every month since then, and we're currently at about 35,000 people.
Wow.
So that's
So and
like
that's
in
because
17 years, we've lost. That's just
so
from old age, mostly
mortality is bigger than
mortality.
replacement. Wow. It's
Yeah,
funny.
we had last month.
Go ahead.
Sorry, we got a little bit of lag here.
Yeah, we got some.
Yeah,
It's what 6,000 miles, so a little bit of lag makes sense, I guess.
it does. But yeah, last month we had 58 deaths in the city and 7 births. That's the numbers
Hmm.
we're looking at.
Wow. So even if hunters are getting their kids into it and raising them in it, there's still just not enough people being raised into it to continue the hunting population.
Correct. We're in a bit of a losing battle as far as numbers go. But we do have a small but growing number of young hunters that are interested in kind of traditional Japanese styles of hunting. So
Hmm.
that's promising at least.
Hmm. And how would you describe traditional? Is that the Matagi that you talk about? Sort of one man, one dog, or one or two dogs and a rifle?
Correctly. Yeah, that's what it would be. It's the Matagi style was very much about subsistence hunting. They had a whole culture. It was almost like a religious culture that they had, where they worshipped the animals and the mountains. And I won't go into it in detail because that's a whole book there about the Matagi.
Hmm.
But that is the traditional Japanese style of hunting. We called it Ichiju, which is like one man, one dog.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's basically one man hunting out there with his dog, and that was considered to be the pinnacle of hunting in Japan.
And that was mostly replaced by a different form of hunting, or it's just continued on.
Okay, well, if we go into hunting in Japan, I guess we have gone through some phases where there was that traditional style of hunting. And then we moved through. There were also during like I guess the samurai period and things like that. There were the lords with. We do have like these typical depictions in ukiyo-e of like these big hunting parties, almost something like you would see in British art, where you've
Mhm.
got the lords all on their horses going out and with the knights and the ladies and everyone's going out as a hunting party. We do have some of that. There were very detailed books by the houndskeeper writing about how to produce good hunting dogs and how to train them and things like that. So Japan does have a bit of that culture, but we did lose a lot of that as we moved into westernization. Japan made this massive push and just steamrolled itself into trying to become a more Western nation in the 1800s. And a lot of that all was lost. And then it turned into much more Western style hunting with Western dogs, like pointers, things like that.
So were those in the medieval tapestry scene of the lord out hunting in those big parties? Were they using Nihon Ken? And Nihon Ken is the name for the whole Japanese dog breeds, all the indigenous dogs to Japan.
Yes, we are looking. I've got actually some of these that I've found over the years, and they actually have depiction of Spitz type dogs that are still with us today here in Japan. Basically, the ancestors of the Nihon Ken, which, as you said, is the original land race of hunting dogs that came over here to Japan when it was settled by humans tens of thousands of years ago.
So and was there a class? For instance, where I grew up in England, I think, although some people might push back on this, there was a class connotation to hunting, and hunting was limited to, uh, royals and lords at various points as nature became constricted. Did that exist in Japan?
I think in Japan we managed to skip that phase because I would say that all hunting, probably worldwide, started in a much more primitive survival subsistence style, hunter gatherer kind of a system. And then from there, as probably hunting became more regulated in Europe just because of civilization, Japan kind of managed to skip that. We went
Hmm.
straight from being a much more let's say natural kind of a civilization and just jumped 2 feet into being a much more Western nation in the 1800s and things. So we didn't have that class connotation as far as hunting goes. There was still very much hunters, the Matagi hunters in the countryside were the ones that hunted wild game meat. Um, yeah, so that
Hmm.
was definitely different, I think.